Hi, so today we're going to be talking about center of mass, which is a pretty interesting topic because it relates to a lot of things about how you move every moment of every day and how objects are stable and balanced. And so many times you don't realize that you are actually taking into account center of mass as you do anything from start to trip and fall and move your arms out one way, or if you watch a tightrope walker and what they're doing with their hands and moving, shifting them back and forth. This all has to do with center of mass. So center of mass is the average, it's the average location of mass. So if we were to figure out you have some mass out here, or just an object, some mass out here, some mass out here, here and here, it's where on average you could consider the mass to be, and, some mathematical average. So some objects are really simple if they are uniform. If an object is uniform in all ways in density and shape, then the center of mass is exactly at the center, the geometric center of the object. But a human body, right? We're going to do a few things with the human body today. Obviously, it's a little more complicated because you have all these appendages, and you have muscle, which has different density as fat and bone. So it depends on that and where those things are located. So everyone is a little bit individual, but in general, we can give a generality where your center of mass is. And it also, in general, stereotypically depends on if you are a male or female, because they're usually built a little differently, right? And so because of that, it will be located slightly different. So we're going to talk about that too. What was I going to say now? Where do you think your center of mass is? Well, how about if I add, it is your stability point. So it is, if your center of mass is over a support, you're not going to fall over, okay? If your center of mass is over your support, okay? So I know, because I'm able to stand like this, my center of mass is over my feet, okay? Otherwise, I would fall over. So there's only, and this is how you can start to figure out where something is, or center of mass needs to be below the point of suspension, and then we're going to do that for part 2 of our lab today. All right, but right now standing, I know my center of mass is over my feet. If I lean too much, there's only so much I can lean forward without falling, and if I'm going to start to fall, what do? I step my foot forward, and now my center of mass is again over my support. Okay, what else could I do? If I want to lean forward really far, what do? I can put my arms backwards, because then I take some of my mass backwards and change where the average is, right? Or because my center mass was shifting forward, because I was leaning forward, I use my arms to do. Or if you start to lean one way this way, I can lean this way by sticking out my leg this way to create more mass going this way, to compensate for the mass going this way. And so I keep my center mass over my feet. You don't realize that you take this into account all the time. I'm gonna move my camera down a little so you can see me sitting in a chair. All right, so here I am in a chair, and you don't realize that when you're in your chair, if you go to get up, there's 2 options. You cannot just stand straight up. You need to try this at home. Okay, if you just wanna get up, you're stuck. There's only 2 options you can do to get up, because right now, my center of mass is not over my feet. The average, if you see how much of my mass is this way, there's no way it's over my feet. So I have 2 options. One is I can go like this, and I just shifted a bunch of mass forward so it's over my feet, and now I can stand up. My other option is what? Well, if I don't move my center of mass over my feet, I can move my feet under my center of mass. So what do people do automatically? You put your foot back, and now I can stand up. Or you do a combination of both. But if I put my foot back, I can get up as well. But if you don't do either one of those, if your center of mass is not over your feet, you're kind of out of luck. Okay, so where is your center of mass? Generally, well, for men, it tends to be around their belly button. And with women, it's a little bit lower because women tend to have more mass at their hips, bringing it down. So women's center mass is a little bit lower than men's. Now that's just standing like this. Again, if you change your mass, guess what? If you lift your arms over your head, didn't you just make mass go up? All right. What if I lean forward and I'm this shape? If I'm this shape, right, then my center of mass is where the average is for that shape. So it definitely changed. And it may not be on my actual body at some point, okay? Which kind of happens with with a demo I'm gonna do here. So we're gonna do a few things. So one is, this is a fun trick you can do with your friends, is you go up to a wall and you take 2 steps back. So I have 1 foot against the wall. I'm gonna put my toe against the heel of my next foot and then take a step back. So I am 2 foot lengths back. Now, so there is not a set, because everyone has a different height, you don't have a set distance you're gonna measure from the wall. Also, we're gonna assume the feet are kind of proportional to your body. So this little game doesn't always work with everyone, but it's kind of fun. So what can I do now? You put your arms at your side and you try to have your head touch the wall and you try to be able to stand up again. I was able to do it because my center mass is a bit lower, and when I bend forward, my center of mass shifted forward, but not beyond my feet. It's right at the edge. I can feel it's a little hard to do. If I were to take a little bit further, step back, it wouldn't work out. What happens is I go like this, and did you see what happened? I just fell. I fell towards the wall. My center of mass is beyond my feet, and I need to put my hand on the wall and push myself back. That tends to happen to guys. So guys' center of mass is higher, and when they lean forward, they end up moving it beyond their feet, and they actually tip towards the wall because that center mass is beyond that point. All right, so that's kind of interesting. And then the one you're supposed to do with this lab, you're supposed to stand against a wall and try to touch your toes, and you're gonna see the same problem. You're gonna go like, well, I can't. I mean, people will literally just, if you keep your heels against the wall, you're gonna see, you could hardly start to move, because I have to take my shoulders away from the wall, and I can't get any of my mass to stick behind me to counterbalance that or to change my center of mass back over my feet. So as I start to go like this, you just tip and fall forward. Only someone, I've had one person be able to do it because they were like a contortionist, and they could like literally move their spine and not have to come so much forward to be able to touch their toes. But that one's kind of fun too. So you have some pictures in the drawing on your worksheet where I marked the first center of mass, and then on the other ones you need to mark where, so they show you where the center of mass was. That's not going to stay. All right, you need to, based on like arms moving over your head, your body leaning forward. It does not have to be on the body. You need to think about this. And the other thing I asked you to do is underline the support area. So that would be the whole foot. So you need to underline that, and then think about if you aren't tipping, your center of mass must be over your feet. If you are tipping, your center of mass must be, if you draw a little vertical line, should be beyond the feet, okay? All right, so we can definitely touch our toes if we're away from the wall, because as you do so, you don't realize it, but I just kicked my back end out, right, to be able to do it. Okay, all right, let's go to our next station now. All right, so I have some different shapes here, and I want to find the center of mass of this object, and I can use the rule that the center of mass is always above the point of support or below the point of suspension. And so that's what we're gonna use, the point of suspension thing for figuring out where the center of mass of my object is here. So I just have some shapes. There are some eyelets screwed into the different sides, and I have just a little hook here, and I'm going to hang my object here and we are going to try to, what I know by just hanging up one way is that its center of mass is somewhere below here. That's all I know. Do I know the exact point? No. All right, so one piece of information here is not enough, but we can get more. I'm gonna try to balance my ruler and try to see what I can do here. So let me stop this from swinging. Okay. It's hard for me standing off to the side to see where vertical is. So I'm trying to draw a vertical line. Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to take this and switch. Now, if I go to hang it on this one, do you think it's gonna stay like this when I let go? No, your common sensibilities realize that that can't be. Why? Well, so it doesn't seem to make sense, right? And so, and it must be because the center mass is somewhere over here and it needs to be under this point. So as I let go, we can see exactly what happens here, right? So now I'm gonna take my ruler, try to find my vertical, keep this from moving. All right, it's really hard not leaving room for the camera here to be able to see and not me. Okay, so there is my second line. Now, that should be now where the center mass is based on those two. And now we cross our fingers and I have to hang it from a third point. All right, and hope, oh, not too bad. All right, so a little off. I'm getting a little bit of a triangle of error here. Okay, so if this was perfect, this would make 1 point, but we kind of get just a general region in this on this one. So we know the center mass is about there. Notice it's about at the geometric center of this object because this was just a piece of plywood. That makes sense. It should also be the point where if I put my finger under it, it should be able to balance if I actually had some skills. Okay, all right, and then we're gonna do the rest of these objects. Same thing. Right? I'm gonna hang this, right? I wish I could hang. Oh, I kinda can, kinda. Okay. And we can see, and it doesn't matter which hook that I hang it on, right? It always finds its center, and this should be no surprise to you, right? That as I do this, right, at any point, right, we can see that one worked out a little better, didn't it? The center of mass is at the geometric center of this object. But this also works, well, let's do this one now. I got this one. Let's see if this one's quite the same. Okay. Draw. All right, do you see a little difference? Interesting, huh? Look at this. Interesting, huh? What do you notice here? You go, did something go wrong? Your center of mass is not in the center. Center of mass is in the center if you have a uniform density object, right? And I have a trick here because under all my tape on this side is I have some lead weights on one side. And you can see this is, the weight was shifted this way, and that's where you see the lumps on this side. Okay, so that was the tricky one. So we see center of mass can be in the center for a uniform object, but if it's non-uniform, right? And then here we get crazy shapes. So what about this one? All right, ooh, this is kind of a mirror image of the ones you got on your sheet, but so we do the same thing here. Okay, I'm gonna try to hang that. Okay. Trying to keep that level. All right, so we really should only need to do 2 lines, but the third is your confirmation, right? The third should be the, I hope it should be our confirmation. Oh, see, it's a little off there this time again. All right. Okay, so we kind of see we have a little bit more error in that, but it's about right there. Okay, and then one last one. All right, what do you think about this guy? I'm gonna hang this one up. I was trying to make one thing happen. Let's see what we get here. It's not too bad. Okay. Whoops. Okay, there's one line. All right, can you see what's going to happen with this one? What do you see? I'm trying to get this to stop rocking. Oops, that didn't mark. Sorry. Hold on. Okay, what do you notice about the center of mass of this object? They're not all crossing because they're somewhere around here, right? Right, if you draw those imaginary lines together. All right, so here's a case where the center of mass is not even on the object, okay? It's here. It doesn't affect, it's easy to balance. So vertically like this, we can hang this and have a stable point and all is good. If also I had some like abilities, I could put my finger directly below this and supposedly I could do this right where it would be balanced, although I probably can't do it. What you can't do with this object is have it this way, all right, and support it this way because it will never. In fact, did you watch what happened? If I try to do something like that, right, it wants to flip this way to try to make the center of mass either above, right, the support, or in this case, it's below the support, right? So I know the center of mass is below my finger right now. Okay, all right, so some object center mass is not even on the object. That is the moral right there. Okay, next thing, what do we got here? More toys. So this is what I call the Leaning Tower of Pisa. All right, so I have this piece of wood right here. I'm gonna lower this. And we are going to stand this up on the table. I'm trying to do it so you can see. In this case, the top doesn't really stay on too well, but if you see, it falls over. It will not stand, okay? Now, you should know what the answer to this is. Why is it not, is it tippy? Why won't it stand? Well, its center of mass must be beyond its base. The center of mass is not over the footprint of this base, okay? We know the center of mass is up somewhere and out, right? And so somewhere, and based on, do you see, you can see it right here, right? That it must be just beyond this base here, and there's no way that's gonna stand, all right? But we have a trick here. What can we do? I can take the top off of this, and now it can stand. Why can it stand now? What did I do? I took this top, and this top was higher and out more, right? So if I remove this, what do? I pull the center of mass back and down, right? And it must be back enough that it's now over the base of this. And this seems relatively stable. A wine bottle, a fancy wine bottle holder. This is just a piece of wood that I cut. And you see the angled end. And the angle is just right so that when I put this bottle in here, right, it's stable like this, all right? And that's kind of a cool, like kind of modern display here. And what do we know? I know the combination of this wood and this Perrier or Pellegrino bottle has its mass over this base, okay? And it's good until someone runs into it, right? Okay, so pretty cool. All right. Next one is finding the center of mass of a meter stick. And hopefully you can already figure out where that should be, right? If it's a meter stick and it's made out of a uniform material, so let's say we had a meter stick that wasn't marked. You knew this was a meter, but you needed to divide it up into smaller parts. You wanted to know where 50 centimeters would be. You could do that with your eyes closed, because we know the 50 centimeter mark should be the center of mass, because this is a uniform object. It should be at its geometric center. All right, so how can I do this? I can close my eyes and bring my fingers in, and as long as it stays balanced, if it's not gonna tip over, I know my fingers must be below its center of mass. So I look up, and there you go. Look at, all right, right there, okay? So as long as I know that's the balance point, right? if it's uniform, right? That is the balance point. So the center of mass must be over my finger. Okay. So all I have is a piece of wood that has a hinge, all right? And it's got some little hanging things, and, right? Why is it flopping? Well, it's flopping because the center of mass is beyond the point of support, and so it likes to hang like this, so its center of mass of this piece of wood is below this hinge, okay? All right, well, what can I do? I can be tricky, okay? All right, I can hang a hammer from this. Oh, you can't quite see it all. Let me see if I can move this camera over so you can see what I just did. I have a hammer hanging from this piece of wood. And I hung something from this thing that didn't stay up by itself, and now it's standing up. So what's the secret there? How is that working? Well, what do we know? It isn't that, the deal is not so important that I hung something from this piece of wood. What's important is it's hooked and its center of mass is over this way, right? Its center of mass is over this way. And what does this mass want to do? It wants to be below its point of suspension. And so this hammerhead wants to go this way. And so actually it is forcing this hinge upward in the attempt of this trying to get below the point of suspension. All right? All right. That's kind of, this should mess with your mind, all right? That is actually holding it up. All right, so I am going to attempt to, since I don't have a wood match here today. Okay, there we go. Okay, I instead am using just a piece of a wood splint here. And I am gonna create a little balancy situation. All right, did you see that? What's cool is you can do it, oh, trying to make it so you guys can see. It was good. It's one of those finicky things. All is well, and then it's not so well. Try to jam this in here. Okay, maybe. Okay. There we go. All right. So, I don't know if I can lower this so you can see a little better. Okay, so you can see here, I've created this little balance case right here, all right? It seems like it shouldn't be that stable, but it's not too bad there. What you can do, if you did this with a match, you can light the match on fire and make it burn back all the way till it's just on the edge, so it really looks, can look spectacular. But it's kind of cool. And so, you know, it's one of those balancing party trick kind of things. So where is the center of mass on this? So a lot of people will tell me it's right there. It's right there because it's holding on there. But that's not really right. If you look close, I don't know if you can see that, those forks are actually leaning downward. And if they're leaning downward, the center of mass can't be there. But where is it? Well, we said the center of mass always has to be below the point of support or above the point of support. And so in this case, it's not up here. So it must be below that lip, okay? So it's not on the lip, it's below the lip, all right? And that makes this pretty stable because if this swings, if these little legs swing in different ways, what it does is it self-corrects actually. And so it'll want to start to turn and self-correct. So it's pretty good and pretty stable there. There are other party tricks you can do. Let me see if I can rig this up. It's one of my fun ones I like to do. Some days I'm better at it than others. You can do this with a pop can. It's even more impressive when I do this with a Erlenmeyer flask. So I have a flask and I put some water in it. I'm just guessing, like, you know, this much is what I'm doing here. And I'm gonna put a little pile of salt. This is my like cheat point first, okay? All right, so watch me. Now, we're gonna see if I got skills today. All right, let's hope I have skills. All right, now, so I got this set up, but what you could do now, I gotta be careful, I'm gonna blow away the salt. You know you wanna do this in a restaurant, right? And what have I done now? I've made this that the center of mass, okay? The center of mass must be right where over the base, okay? There's not a lot of base, but you know what the secret is with salt? All right, do you know your chemistry? Salt is cubic. So it's like putting little, I don't know if you know what a wheel chalk is, but basically I got like a little square on one side of this and one square on the other side, and it's keeping it from wanting to tip. All right, so it's a little bit of a cheat there, using some salt, but it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Don't leave it forever because, you know, some wind's gonna make it tip over, but it's kind of fun. Okay, other examples. You might have one of these at your desk. You should, all geeks should have one of these, is the little balancing bird. All right, and here's again, one of those cases that seems to defy your regular sensibility of that this is balancing so nicely. And it has to do with, again, where is the center of mass? The center of mass is not at the beak, but again, below the beak, because those wings are pointed down a little bit, and that's what gives it its stability. If it was right at the beak, that should make it, you know, kind of tip over, but because the center mass is just below that beak, it can play the wobble game and be really, really stable. You can have other kind of setups that are stable like this. I used to have more of these. I don't know where they are, but you can have all kinds of fun kind of things where you can have things balancing around real nice. And as long as the center of mass, that's why we have this little drooping angle to keep that center mass low. All right. Same thing with a tightrope walker. They carry, right, a pole, and that pole has that bend to it to help drop the center of mass. All right, so here's our little last demo here. Here I have a bunch of wood balls, all right, in this container, and I have a street hockey ball here, and I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna bury it all the way in the bottom. I'm gonna try, push it down here, okay, and cover it all up, and I wanna see that ball back again. So what can I do? All right, make a lot of noise, and the ball is at the top. So you could argue, you could talk about this in different ways, but I want to discuss this in terms of center of mass. What is happening here in terms of center of mass? All right, we know things to be stable. What do they want? They want a low center of mass. The center of mass, if it can drop. All right, if you shake things around, right, or if anything, right, high center of mass is unstable, low center of mass is stable. So everything, if you shake it around, like things, like that's not gonna wanna stand like that, it's gonna get knocked over. Things get knocked over, so its center of mass is as low as possible. After that point, it's stable. So what do we have in this case? we had these wood things, and I had this lighter object here. If I if I push this ball, which I did, I pushed this ball down, this lower density hollow ball down, it made these wood beads that are denser and heavier have to be higher. So what did I do by pushing this ball down? I raised the center of mass of this container. That's not as stable. If I start shaking, what happens? The balls will tend to be, or the whole system will try to be at the lowest center of mass as possible. And the lowest center of mass means little balls, heavy balls down, and light ball up. All right? In this configuration, the center of mass of this container is as low as possible. Okay. So you can probably figure this out, but what happens when I take a steel ball, okay, that has high density? Wood is less than 1 density, grams per centimeter cubed, and steel is around 8 or so. So I'm going to set that in there. We can already see it's already going. And if I shake, all right, what happened to it? It's gone, right? And why? The rule is still the same here. Why did the steel ball go down while this ball went up? Because if I shake it, the steel ball went down. It has a more mass, more density, and overall making these wood balls go up still lowers the center of mass. So we have the most weight at the bottom, okay? And the same thing, when this rose, it created the most weight at the bottom. So lowest center of mass.